Welcome to this edition of India Inc. 2.0. I'm Nayantara Rai. Today I've come to Sly Granny. It's one of the hottest restaurants we've got in New Delhi, and my guests are Rahul, Khanna and Kabir, Suri of Azure Hospitality. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us here on India Inc. 2.0.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Taking the culinary world by storm. You guys have a lot of restaurants, a lot of brands, whether it's Sly Granny, Mamagoto, Dhaba as well. So tell me, Kabir, how did all of this start?
Our journey started about 9.5 years ago. We started with our first Mamagoto restaurant in Khanna market. Ever since then, we've grown various brands in different capacities. We have 42 restaurants currently across 7 cities of India. We've broken the restaurants into different buckets. So we have QSR, which is Roll Mal and Speedy Chow. We have casual dining, which is Mamagoto and Dhaba. And we've just entered this lifestyle space, which where Sly Granny and Foxtrot fit into. So it's been interesting so far, and we still seem to be growing.
Rahul, you come from a hospitality background. Your family did own the Claridge's Hotel in New Delhi. So how did it all start for you? How did you guys meet?
We've actually known each other. Our parents have been friends for a long time, so we're sort of childhood friends in that sense. I was living and working abroad for a long time in Europe predominantly. I was working for Mandarin Oriental, and then I moved to Dubai after a few stints in London, etc. And I think we moved back to India around the same time. At the time, a lot of his family's interest in Zuma, etc. They were looking for locations here. So he was sort of dabbling with that possibility. I was looking to do something on my own within hospitality and F&B. We got chatting. We had a lot of similar ideas. I think India at the time was also at the cusp of a lot of sort of a revolution, so to speak, on casual dining and sort of high street restaurants. Malls were coming up in a big way. It's around 2007, 2008. So I think we both tapped a sort of gap in the market through our conversations, and Mamagoto came sort of born from that idea and those conversations. But I think more importantly, the idea was not just to do one restaurant, but sort of build a platform of brands, hopefully get in a PE fund down the line and have a sort of longer journey where we can build shareholder value. So I think that was a lot of commonality with what we were thinking of doing, and I think that sort of just took us off into this sort of journey, so to speak. Yeah.
So 9.5 years, Kabir, you said you guys have been at Azure Hospitality when you started it, 42 restaurants, so many brands. Isn't it scary if you scale up too fast? How have you managed that game?
A lot of our scale has actually happened in the last 3 years. So we've seen about 60% year-on-year growth for the last 3 years consistently. It is scary. It's a very fickle market. Normally in the restaurant business, the failure ratio and the rate is much higher than other businesses. But I think we've been very careful with our structuring in respect to what we're doing and who our target audience is and what price points we want to be at. I honestly believe the F&B business in India has just begun. Consumption is on a rise, disposable income's on a rise. I think we've managed to capture the segments correctly. Casual dining, like I mentioned earlier, Mamagoto Dhaba has a mass appeal, and these are brands that you can open in multiple cities of India. The consumption is definitely there. We've also, in process of our journey and evolution, we've realized that we had limited ourselves to a certain segment, and hence we got into Sly Granny and Foxtrot, which is different cuisines but tapping into a different market. So we've tried to basically capture the evolution of consumption in different price points.
Okay.
So fundamentally, those have been our DNA and dharma in respect to how we look at the business. Scale comes with challenges, but scale you have to be careful, and it's location. So we try and make sure that we get the best location, hopefully at the right price, and stay true to the brand and true to what we set out to do, and don't flip flop too much in the middle.
He's saying location, but it also has to be about quality. So,
Yeah,
so how do you do quality control?
I think it comes with first sort of building a team. I think we've got one of the lowest attrition rates in the business. And I think also what we've tried to do is, before we got into this expansion mode, like he said, it's only been 3 years that we actually put the sort of gas on.
So how many restaurants did you open in the last 3 years?
31 or 32.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think what we were doing prior was just building a back end, a strong sort of finance team, a strong IT team, operations, cost control, HR. And also what we did is we invested a lot of money in a sort of demo kitchen for retaining talent and doing a lot of R&D. So even to this day, I think for any restaurant that opens, we spend at least a month and a half on just training of staff and hiring correctly. So I think a lot of that, coming back to your question on quality, I think we're very conscious that most of what we do is very food led. It's not driven by personalities, it's driven more by processes. So we don't have any superstar chefs. It's all very much a organic sort of conveyor belt of talent that we keep propagating internally through these training kitchens and various other things that we do. So I think we've been able to manage quality, but obviously quality gets harder with scale. So it's a constant battle. It's not like we mastered it, but as we keep growing, you sort of get better at least with what you were doing previously, and then you try and adapt to new systems, new technologies that you can bring into the system to kind of make yourself stronger for the long run.
So if all of that is in place, I mean honestly, so if I was to eat at your restaurant in New Delhi, would it be the same as in a Gurgaon, in a Noida, or a Mumbai, or a Bangalore?
So if I break the brands up, Mamagoto in general, the way we've designed it is such that 29 of our sauces, all the dips and the base sauces are made in one centralized kitchen, which is in Delhi. We then send these sauces pan-India. All the raw material, raw vegetables, raw meats come straight to the restaurant. So, if the chef's had a fight with his girlfriend or his wife, the extra salt could be a possibility, but the basics are intact.
So Dhaba used to be a restaurant that was in Claridge's Hotel. Yeah. All of us who grew up in New Delhi know about that. So how do you guys now have that? What was that about?
Yeah, I mean it's a strange coincidence, but I think at the time when we had Goldman Sachs came into our as an investor into our company about 3 years ago, there was various deals on the table that they kept getting, in terms of understanding from us what would we interested in terms of diversifying the portfolio, expanding fast. And most of what they were showing us, we weren't very keen on for some reason or the other. We didn't find it very attractive to our long-term strategy. And we'd been seeing how Dhaba was doing well outside of the hotel. I think they were building something that we felt had a lot of scale, being Indian food, had quite a vanilla kind of appeal. So we just got chatting with their team, and we felt it would be a great complement to Mamagoto. Similarity of price point, similarity of processes. So yeah, it just worked out. No, I mean there's nothing, no more emotion.
This Dhaba was in your blood because I was a restaurant.
I mean, it would have made for a good story, but there was no real emotion there. I think we purely a business decision that we felt this brand had a lot of potential.
How can you not be in Indian food either, right?
Yeah. And so far it's done really well for us. It was a great move. When we bought it, we had just 2 dhabas. Today we're at 11. We're now expanding it very aggressively, and I think there's a lot of potential there, and I think we're quite excited with the footprint that this brand allows us to also have. Right?
I have one question. I'm going to pose this one to him. You're calling it dhaba, but they're not dhaba prices, and they don't look like dhaba food. How big a challenge is that?
In Delhi, it's not a challenge because Delhi, like you said, people are familiar with it. It was called Dhaba by Claridge's, and now it's called Dhaba, established 1986. In markets like Chennai and Hyderabad, where they're unique to its, and people that are from Delhi might be aware of them. Pricing at times is a challenge because people want.
It's not dhaba prices.
It's not dhaba pricing, but we've tried to make it look like a dhaba. We've tried to make sure the ethos and the feel is like a dhaba. Pricing, markets dictate pricing, so we don't have a pan-India price sort of structure. It's predominantly city driven. So certain cities have a different consumption pattern, certain cities have a different depth in market in respect to what is affordable.
You mean if I go to a Mamagoto in a different city or a Slight Rally in a different city, the pricing would be different?
Yes.
Yeah, because the purchasing power is different. The
and not the real estate price.
That is also a factor. Yeah. So real estate might be cheaper in Bangalore versus a Khanna market, so you're able to price it differently. What's more important for the longevity of the brand is the depth of the market. What is the affordability of the consumer? So we fundamentally made that decision that we want to be priced at an affordable range, where you can have kids from various high schools coming, you can have lawyers, you can have it can be a night out. So it's a combination of different events that are willing to pay different pricing depending on lunch. People are on a tighter budget, and then dinner they spend a little bit more. Because it's more casual and it's more family oriented or friends oriented. Lunch is predominantly more, either corporate, so it's a business meeting, you're in and out. Kitty parties, yeah. So, there are different variations that come into play.
Okay, on that note, I'm going to take a short commercial break. You're watching India Inc. 2.0. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back. You're watching India Inc. 2.0. I'm Nayantara Rai. Today I'm coming to you from the Sly Granny restaurant in Khanna Market, and my guests are Rahul, Khanna and Kabir Suri of Azure Hospitality. So you got Goldman Sachs on board. You were just telling that before the commercial break. How did that happen?
Initially, I think with our angel investors, we were very particular that we don't go around shopping to just any fund on the street. I think we're very particular that someone has a macro vision for where this company can go, hopefully with some sort of an international name and mindset. So I think we initially
so how much
had.
Did they give you? How much did you raise?
Initially, it was I think 20 million.
Yeah, so
the first round was 20 million.
Yeah, they've participated in all our rounds. So you had Series A, B, and C. So we've raised 20 million from Goldman.
Yeah, and how it happened, actually, it was quite coincidental. I sort of met somebody who works at Goldman at a wedding, and we just got chatting about, luckily they really liked the brand. They'd eaten Mamagoto a lot, being, sort of Bombay bankers. They'd go to our, I think, Bandra outlet quite a lot. So things just led from there. It was just sort of, send us your IM, let's talk. And it sort of built from there. I mean, no doubt it wasn't overnight. These things always take time, and there was a lot of pushing and shoving. But eventually, I think we realized, apart from the name, I think it was more the chemistry and the commonality of vision that we really were looking for. Otherwise, we were willing to wait. I mean, it wasn't as if we were sort of dying for funding, but at the same time, we wanted to make sure that the timing was right and the partner was even more, let's say, right in that perspective. So. And
Kabir, you said there have been 3 rounds. Who are the other big investors?
So we've got the Max Group. Mr. Anuljit Singh invested in Series B and C.
How much has
they've put in a total of 10 million. So we've had institutional funding of a total of about 30 million between the two. And again, all this happened in the last 3 years. It's been a great journey. I think even with Mr. Singh and the Max Group, we fundamentally deal with Sahil Vachani, who sits on our board as well.
He's Mr. Anuljit Singh's son-in-law.
Yeah. So he sits on our board. It's been a great journey with them because I believe they've also shared the same vision as we do and as Goldman does, and we have the same vision of where this business needs to go. And with them getting into the hospitality business themselves internationally, I believe it made sense for them to have a footprint in India.
So is that the plan, to maybe go international with them?
Absolutely, that is the plan. I mean, our core focus is always going to remain India because we are an Indian brand. We have an Indian story. We've just started. There's a lot more to do. But as markets evolve, we believe that there are certain brands in our portfolio that have a liking based on our conversations with various people overseas for potential entry into those markets.
So what are those markets?
Yeah, so we are looking at the UAE as a market and have been looking at that market, and we're focusing in the UK, specifically London in particular.
Okay, in London is where you're looking at. When will we see the first overseas?
Well, we're hoping in the next 12 to 18 months because we've already done the hard work. We've hired designers, architects. We've met various.
But which brand would it be?
So we're looking at a mix. I mean, we are looking at Mamagoto as well. We also are conceptualizing some new brands for that market.
Because wouldn't Mamagoto, in a sense, be a cluttered market overseas? The cuisine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's how you take it, because I think for certain university towns, etc., I think Mamagoto would be a good fit because it's recession-proof, it's fun, it's young. We're also, like I said, creating some new brands specifically for the international market, which we're in the midst of, storyboarding right now. So I think that hopefully should take a few more months to finish.
Give us a sneak peek. What kind of?
It's definitely going to be something to do with the Indian sort of cuisine or cuisines. It's a question of how you package it. And how it's going to be different from what's there, and where's the gap that we see. I think we're on to something. It's just a question of timing, and obviously the intent is there, the capital is there. I think we have to just make sure the timing is right.
Just to add to what he just said, I think the brand is our current portfolio of brands are known. We have global customers that when visiting India do come through our doors. We've been approached by many for franchises and joint ventures and things like that. So.
Are you going to do that?
We would consider all options. A Mamagoto in its current form in India, for example, doesn't have to be the same form when you go outside India, right? So each product evolves. And like Rahul said, conceptualizing new concepts are always something that's in process. But I believe brands like Sly Granny have great legs overseas. A dhaba, could take over all the curry houses across the UK. There are different elements of different brands that can be that will be put into play. It's just a matter of the correct the timing is very important, and it's who your target audience is very important, and what you're trying to achieve is very important.
Fair enough. Yeah. But Rahul, tell me, how are you going to provide an exit to Goldman Sachs as well as to the Max Group? Is an IPO inevitable? I know we're talking a time when the markets are crashing, but is that going to be the ultimate?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're always looking at. I mean, he's more on the finance bent, one of the two. But I think we're always thinking of various scenarios. Obviously, going public would always be everyone's sort of best option. More headache, of course. More scale. You need, so there's a lot of these permutations that we keep working on. We're in constant talks with some other peers to see how we can sort of have some sort of a synergy with them. So there's all kinds of things on the table.
Is that it, IPO or?
Yeah, so I think for us, like I said, we're halfway through our journey. The next 3 years are very important to take this business forward. IPO is a given, right? So timing again is very important, and scale is very important, because you have to have a certain threshold when it comes to size. And I think as the markets mature and as consumption increases, which is what's happening gradually, definitely we are going to go down that route.
Okay, with that we'll take a short commercial break. We'll be back. You're watching India Inc. 2.0. See you in a couple of minutes. Welcome back. You're watching India Inc. 2.0. I'm Nayantara Rai. My guests today are Rahul Khanna and Kabir Suri of Azure Hospitality, and we're coming to you from the Sly Granny restaurant in Khanna Market. When you talk about F&B, you have to talk about catering and you have to talk about weddings. Is that on the anvil?
We did have a catering division, but we found that we had we had catering which was divided into two different verticals. We had institutional catering and we have private wedding and party catering. We've preferred to stay within the institutional catering side because that business is all throughout the year,
and it's white money.
It's
all checked.
It's throughout the year, and it's less headache. It's less follow up.
I don't want peanut in this sauce. Can you add more chilies in that sauce?
No, and also it's not really a core business. I think coming back to if you speak to people in the PE world in terms of valuations and what gets bigger multiples, no one really is very keen on chasing anyone who's got a massive contribution of catering income. So I think to us, and there's no real scalability in terms of footprint nationally, etc., etc. So we just felt from a bandwidth point of view, from a focus point of view, it was sort of something we were doing, but it wasn't really getting us anywhere.
Yeah, it was 4% contribution to revenue, which is neither here nor there.
It was more like a vanity thing, and we just felt since we have so much going on with such expansion plans, it's best to focus on our retail. What we're looking to focus on in terms of expansion with.
So you're in the F&B business, Rahul, but that doesn't mean you cook. But do you cook?
I do. Not as much as I used to, but I do cook at home a little bit. But I'm very, very selective with how much I cook and when I cook and for whom I cook. But yeah, I do cook and I enjoy it. It's very, very mood driven, but yeah.
You?
I cook basics, eggs and toast and
so you don't
and
cook.
Porridge. No,
so who comes up with the menu? How does that work? You said no superstar chefs, etc.
So we have a partner, Janti, who's been with us from day one. She's in charge of all the food across all the verticals. We have cuisine-driven chefs that are heading the various brands, and they all report up to her. But I think it's not one person's job. The way we've structured our system is that we collectively make decisions in respect to food and the gaps and how we want to target those markets. Execution of that is done with her and the team. But it's a combined, consolidated decision making, which allows us to put more than one mind on the table rather than just select decisions. So I think that's helped us so far with this sort of process.
And do you do surprise tastings at your restaurant, like just land up and the team has no idea?
As much as we can. Obviously,
you send people in for surprise tasting?
What we do is we have a couple of agencies that do mystery shopping for us. We also speak to some friends every now and then, get feedback. And luckily now with this whole digital age, you've got eyes and ears everywhere.
What's the biggest crisis you ever had to deal with? Insect in the food, anything like that?
9 years ago, 6 months into the opening of Khan Market, we were analyzing our numbers and understanding food costs at that time, and we realized that something was out of whack. At that time, we questioned the chef and a few other people within the system and realized that there was something not right. And when we did point fingers, 6 or 7 people from the kitchen just walked out right before lunch service.
Oh God.
So we had this full restaurant.
And no food to serve?
You know, almost, you know, and no,
Yeah, a lot of food, no one to serve it.
A lot of food and no one to serve it. So, you know, that was a great learning curve because we didn't shut down. We actually stayed on the floor.
So what did you do? Did you guys have to come out yourselves?
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
so,
we just,
you know, we were on the floor and Janti was on the pass, and the 6 chefs still work with us, by the way. It's been 10 years. So they've been rewarded for standing and making sure that, absolutely. And they're today's star chefs within the system, and you know, they've grown and evolved with us. But that was quite a task that.
And also I think a good sort of line in the sand in terms of a confidence builder. I think it was good to know one of those sink or swim moments, right? So I think in hindsight, I think it was quite a good thing that happened, because we got a good sort of realization of what can go wrong and what we're capable of doing come a crisis. So I think that was quite important.
And I think what also added to that confidence building was that, you know, fortunately for us, we were from the industry. You know, he while working in the in London and Hong Kong and other cities, you know, actually worked behind the bar and did service and things like that. And I actually worked in the kitchen and, you know, cleared tables and, you know, did everything from ground up. So it was not that we were shy of getting into.
You have to get your hands dirty.
Absolutely,
anyway.
and I think that also put a point across to the team, saying that, you know, these guys are here to stay, and, you know, no matter, you know, no bullshit's going to be allowed over here, and we need to make sure that we toe the line and, you know, work within the system and what the policies are.
So as we get ready to wrap up this interview, talk to the people who go to your restaurants. Kabir, Suri, what's your favorite dish across your restaurant? What's the one favorite dish you have? And you start thinking as well.
Yeah.
Whichever one comes up first, it's fine.
Across all the brands?
Yeah.
It's a very tough question.
I'll give you 3. You can name 3 dishes.
How about I give you 1 per brand?
Fair enough.
Yeah. So
it's a must-have you have in each of them.
In Sly Granny, I like the peppered salmon.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite dishes. In Mamagoto, I love the khaswai. I think it's a favorite for many. In dhaba, I'm a big fan of the dal makhni, the kali dal. So those are my 3.
Rahul?
Yeah, it's a bit strange. I was just thinking about it. I'm trying to avoid meat these days in general, but all my top 3 picks are all meat items. Shows how much I have willpower. But I think the balti meat at dhaba has always been a classic. It's sort of, and I guess there's a nostalgia attached to it. It's something that you can, it's quite a no-brainer in terms of, you know, how it's served, and the taste hasn't changed for donkey's years. For Mamagoto, I think the humble rock shrimp tempura, I think, was very much where we began, and it's sort of still holding its own. Even though I don't love it, but I have an attachment to that dish, right? Because we haven't tweaked that recipe in like 10 years. With Granny, I think our original burger in Bangalore, it was pretty hardcore. It was like a proper burger lover's burger. And we still serve it, and we got great sort of feedback on it. And a couple of cocktails as well. I mean, you know, I think people forget how great our cocktails are at Sly Granny. I think we're definitely pushing the level of these.
I can't get into that. We're not allowed to discuss alcohol and music. So sorry about that. People have to come try it on their own. Okay, you guys have good chemistry, but tell me, do you guys have bad fights as well? What's the lesson?
No, there's a lot of heated debates. I think there's no sulking. I think every day, not just the 2 of us. There's
because this is like a different kind of a marriage, right?
Yeah. I think the question is because all of us are equally passionate and equally wanting the best for that child. So there's always going to be differences of opinions on how to bring it up. So I think it's healthy, because, you know, the last thing you want to do is spend things up. So I think we're very often putting our thoughts on the table, and then all of it's round table. It's not just the 2 of us. There's Janti, our partner, our brand heads debate a lot with us. Sometimes things get heated, but I think that's fair, because it shows that there's honesty and there's transparency, right? So I think it's better than going home and sort of keeping it to yourself. So I think that's good. And again,
and are you in here for the long term, or do you think the plan is like most other young entrepreneurs, build it up and then completely sell and live a retired life 10 years
Sounds good, doesn't it? Who knows? I think in this business, you know, you have to stay involved, because a lot of the brand, the touch points, there's a lot of us in it, right? So it's a catch-22 that, you know, if you create a great succession plan, of course you can go back and relax, but, you know, I think it's as good as what do you leave behind, right? So I think we keep trying to make sure that it's not reliant on Kabir and Rahul. There's a lot more to the brand. I think we're getting there, but I think in a few years we might be able to tell you exactly, you know, how successful we've been on that. So.
And with that, gentlemen, I'd like to thank both of you for taking the time out and joining us here on India Inc. 2.0.
Thank you
Thanks
very
a lot.
much. Thank you.